Hello, everybody, and welcome to another World of Warcraft live developer Q&A. My name is Josh Allen, a.k.a. Community Manager Lore, and joining me here today, we have Senior Game Designer Ryan Shwayder. Ryan, thanks so much for being here.
No problem. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah, we've got a lot of really great questions lined up for today, as well as a couple of extra surprises towards the end that you're definitely going to want to hang out for and keep an eye out for those. But before we get into the questions, I want to just take a second because a lot of people are probably unfamiliar with you because you haven't been on one of these Q&As before.
Mm-hmm.
You're actually the what's the content supervisor, I think is the official term for patch 7.2. So what does that actually entail in terms of your role on the team?
Yeah, it kind of varies depending on what we're working on at the time. For the context of 7.2, what that really means is I get in on the ground floor, work with leads to define kind of what the feature set will be, what kind of content we're going to be doing. And then from there, we kind of transition to enabling the developers to do the things they do best, kind of doing feedback, iteration process. Once we're done with that, kind of toward the tail end, it's weaving together the disparate parts of the patch into a cohesive experience.
Cool. And so, just for clarity, when we're talking about content, I guess it wasn't quite clear from the actual blog post that we made, so apologies for that. But when we're talking about content, we mean things like Broken Shore, like Cathedral of Eternal Night, all the new stuff to do in patch 7.2. So that's what we're going to be talking about here today. Let's go ahead and Let's go ahead and get started with this question from Zaryi, who said, what lessons have you learned from past patches, including but not limited to Isle of Thunder, Timeless Isle, and Tanaan Jungle, that you have applied to 7.2's Broken Shore?
So really we take lessons from everything that we do in the past. Those are great examples of kind of places we drew from for Broken Shore. Isle of Quel'Danas is another great example. So one of the things kind of between Timeless Isle and Tanaan Jungle, we realized that the landmass of Timeless Isle is really conducive to interesting boss fights, and when someone announces that a boss is up, everyone kind of flocks over there. A little harder in Tanaan Jungle because it's a larger landmass, and since we knew we had a bigger landmass of Broken Shore to deal with, we kind of are taking on a new theory for the rare elites. They'll be up for half an hour at a time.
Okay.
They're really only applicable to you personally once a day. So that's, just one of many examples, but really just kind of the dynamic ebb and flow of Broken Shore was inspired a lot by these kind of taking the newer systems, even being inspired by Legion launch with the World Quest system. So really it's true. We get inspired by everything that has been done in the past as well as other games.
Cool. Yeah, that's definitely something. Like thinking back to Timeless Isle, you sort of remember those moments of the pirate boss is up. Everybody come over here real quickly. So that'll be really super cool. And it's cool to hear that we're doing more to extend along those lines. Next question from Furcho750, who asked, I'm actually not sure if that's how you pronounce that either. For show, maybe?
For show.
Faux show 750 said, is 7.2 solo content as big as Suramar? I'm not raiding nowadays, and I love long quest lines.
You do. That's good. So it's kind of hard to draw direct parallels between the two. So with Suramar, we had the Nightborn. We had an entirely new race to kind of get to know. There's a lot of really interesting characters. So when you want to introduce something as new and I guess deep as Suramar and the Nightborn,
right,
that kind of necessitates a very long, deep quest line that kind of branches out like Suramar does, and does a great job of it. When it comes to something like the Legion, a lot of people kind of know who the Legion are, right?
Sure.
To some extent, they're a known quantity. And a lot of the protagonists and antagonists are people that we've encountered before. You've got, Illidan, the Return of Illidan, people have been waiting for. Prophet Velen, kind of the story of where he's going after the tragedy that, spoiler alert, occurred before in 7.0. And then we've got Maiev Shadow Song and... who am I leaving out? Khadgar. You can't forget Khadgar.
Yeah.
So since these are a little more known quantities, we go a little wider with the content. With Legion, their tactics tend to be, they are Legion, so they have so many different places that they can go, so many places they can attack and defend at the same time. that's kind of the focus with a lot of the solo content. Is there will be some meaty quest lines. You've got your trait unlock lines, you've got follower quest lines, eventually class mount quest line, and then the Legion Fall campaign is a little more holistic in the way that we approached it, where you've got demon assaults in the Broken Isles, you've got world quest on Broken Shore, Cathedral, Eternal Night, just so many different places to go at once. There's tons of soloable content.
Nice.
But it's not exactly the same presentation as Suramar.
Right. So it's more of a, if I'm understanding correctly, it's more of there's something to go and do, but not necessarily like someone saying, okay, now you've got a quest to go and assault the or defend a Legion assault. It's just literally that there's a Legion assault and you should probably go defend it, sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, not the greatest example because there is a quest to go defend a Legion assault, but
well, there you go then.
But yeah, in general, it's more of an organic experience.
Okay, cool. A very open world sort of feel to it. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Question from Unaleska Spirit, who asked, the Legion invasions across the Broken Isles are amazing, but why are there no rewards or cash when we finish 4 world quests from the quest?
Interesting. So I think you're talking about the Legion assaults. So there's 4 different zones that are being assaulted. All the level up zones through Legion get assaulted, and that's actually a 3-part experience. So the world quest, doing 4 world quests, is actually part 1. It's quest 1 of the 3-part experience of an assault. So you start off doing the 4 world quests, and then you move on to defending something like Thunder Totem, some major point of interest.
Okay.
And from there, you move up to doing a 3-person scenario, which is really exciting because, that's something that a lot of us love is the 3-man scenarios that don't require any specific roles. So you can kind of get in them, get a couple of other buddies around, and have a cool experience. And the reward is actually after the very end. So it's the end of the scenario that you get your big reward. As far as level up goes, we actually made it so you can do the world quests associated with the assaults as bonus objectives. So that's
below
kind of
level 110.
So anyone below level 110 can still do them and get rewards per world quest, but you're not going to be doing the entire experience. You're not 110. You can't take out the command ship yet.
Yeah, exactly. Because that final scenario is that sort of like, let's go up to their actual ship and take it out so that they have to retreat.
Or blow up.
Or blow up. Yeah. They could just end with being blown up. I suppose that would help with defeating the Legion. All right, next question from Peach Pies, who said, I would like to know if the class mounts and new artifact appearances are going to be locked behind time gates, or if we can go after them right away when the patch launches. Excuse me.
Okay, I'll kind of answer this in reverse order. So you can begin working toward the artifact appearances day 1. If you have 35 traits in your specialization's artifact weapon, you'll actually have a quest line to unlock the final traits for that weapon in particular. That's a prerequisite for getting the challenge artifact appearance, which I think is probably what they're referring to here. From there, it's kind of up to the entire region. So both factions and everyone in the entire region, a region being something like North America or Europe,
right,
will contribute toward building buildings. And the Mage Tower is the building you want if you want to go after those challenge appearances. Okay. So you can work toward it. That building can go up. It depends on how fast people contribute, really, to building it. And then once it's up, you can try your hand at defeating the challenge encounter. As far as class mounts are concerned, so the requirements on the class mounts currently are Exalted Reputation with the Armies of Legionfall, which is the new faction, and then finishing the campaign. So there's an 11-week campaign for the Legionfall, so that will take place toward the tail end of the main experience.
But it's something that you can start on right away.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can immediately start earning faction.
Okay, cool. And obviously, if you're keeping up with that weekly rollout of the Legionfall quest chain, you're gonna have less to do once that actually. Yeah,
and that's actually probably a good thing to bring up. So there's the weekly campaign. Every week there's a new quest for that 11-week period. If you fall behind, then there's only a 1-day delay between them.
Oh, okay, cool.
So if you go on vacation for a couple weeks, you can come back in 2 days. You can actually catch up with everyone else.
Cool. All right. Next question here. Similar question from Warcraft Mounts, who asked, "What is your design philosophy behind the many varied approaches to class mounts that we're seeing in Patch 7.2?"
So, kind of an overriding philosophy that we have at Blizzard is selling the fantasy, and each class has a different fantasy. Obviously, I mean, there's some where it's super significant, like Demon Hunter versus a monk.
Right.
And kind of what we do is for the acquisition quest lines for those, we try to sell that fantasy as best we can. That doesn't mean that there's going to be parity necessarily between different classes. Some of the mounts where, like priests, it doesn't make sense that you are a shadow priest riding a holy mount.
Right, yeah.
So when the fantasy needs aren't met by a single mount, then, we don't really make multiple mounts, but it's, variants of the same mount.
Right.
And then in other cases, something like monks will give a little extra something. I think you have a pet that's the same as your mount, so that's kind of a cool thing. And
the
demon
monk
hunters
mount talks as well.
The monk mount talks, yeah, that's pretty awesome. Kind of like those artifact weapons.
Yeah.
Cheeky. And then demon hunter gets probably the best thing of all, Fel Pepe.
That is pretty cool. Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. So it's kind of a, like, in some cases, the fantasy made sense to have the different mounts, or different, at least, color variants on the mounts.
Yep.
In some cases, it didn't make as much sense, so we tried to give them something else that was cool, like an extra pet or something. Okay, cool. And here's actually a question right along those lines from Lynn Carius, who asked, will each class get a matching pet and mount, like hunters, DKs, and monks, for example?
No, that's kind of the theory that there doesn't have to necessarily be parity. We're trying to make everybody happy and excited about the class mounts and everything that entails, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you get the matching pet mount.
Okay. Cool. Moving on. Question from Ilkoland, I believe is this person's name, who asked, personal quests like the mounts and new champions aside, how much class flavor will the new Broken Shore content have? I'd like my non-Demon Hunter characters to feel like their order is contributing too.
For sure. Yeah. So I'll kind of back up a little step. And the first time we were here was during the pre-launch. It was the Alliance and the Horde, not necessarily acting in unity, but acting at the same time.
Right.
And we saw one of the greatest failures, really, of all time. Leaders died. It was, pretty dramatic experience.
I'm still a bit broken up about it.
You'll be okay. You'll be okay. So you can hold back those Tyrians. Sorry, I promised I wouldn't. I can't resist all the time. So the kind of the approach we're taking this time is you've, throughout the entire experience of Legion, you've been collecting these pillars of creation, the Hammer of Khazgaroth, the Aegis of Agrimar, things of that nature. And people have always wondered, what are these for? Right. And the truth is that these are for sealing the Tomb of Sargeras. And the Tomb of Sargeras is the kind of was set in motion by Gul'dan most recently, has reopened, and that's now kind of the heart of the demon's power on Azeroth. So after acquiring these pillars of creation, after leveling up your artifacts, after strengthening your entire class order halls, we are now prepared.
Right.
So, and Illidan's back, of course.
Yeah.
So this is, there is no such thing as Alliance and Horde in the armies of Legion Fall. It's all the classes are all together now. And because that's the only way you can defeat the Legion. They're just too powerful otherwise.
The entire population of Azeroth has to face off against them.
Exactly. So, kind of to get back to the question here, every class is participating roughly equally in reality. If you went through Broken Shore on PTR with your Demon Hunter, you saw a lot of Demon Hunters, most likely because there's actually different flavor populations in the hub and Deliverance Point for every single class. So you'll see more, warriors get their way to travel back up and down to their order hall.
And even like some of the just NPCs that are in the area as well. Like I was looking at it on a warlock, and you see like these big infernals that are like throwing rocks around, defending the area.
Totally.
But then if you do the same, you get to the same point on a shaman, you see like elementals are there instead. So it's kind of tailored towards your class a little bit in that sense.
Right. Yeah.
So basically, if you played it on the PTR on one character, what you saw on that character is not necessarily what you're going to see on your other characters as well.
Exactly. And, we're trying to continue a lot of the class fantasy stuff. We've done such a strong job with Legion of, showing off the classes and getting you to get to know your classes and everyone associated with them. So we'll be continuing that, not only with the flavor. There's also, guards of different types and repairmen of different types and things. But there's also one of the cooler things is once you get a few weeks in, you'll get to go recruit a new follower. And that follower will be able to accompany you. So every one of the new followers actually is a guardian as well. So that's kind of a cool thing for people who like that. And actually we made it so you can, if you don't like that, but you like what they can do, you can actually bind that spell to kind of summon them in when you want them, but they don't have to be around all the time.
That's cool.
So that's something people have been asking for.
Yeah.
So after you've done that, you actually can unlock world quests that are class specific. So you'll see 2 a day. It's not always your class. 2 class specific world quests a day after a few weeks go by. And these are both on Broken Shore. If it's your class, you'll be doing something that's very contextual. I don't want to spoil too much, but
sure.
But rogues will do roguish things.
Okay.
And when the rogue world quest is up, you can actually support that if you were a different class. So it's not just for rogues; it's rogue things, and then everyone else can actually help in the same effort. But they won't be doing exactly the same thing at the same time.
So very sort of tailored to the individual class. So like,
right.
Paladins might be like purifying something theoretically. Mages might be winning arena matches, something very core to that class. I'm just kidding. Cool. Before I move on, did you have anything else I kind of interrupted?
I mean,
you,
I can keep going if you want, but let's...
Yeah, we got a bunch of questions to get through, so let's
exactly.
move on. Next question here from Roxette, who said, how long should it take to complete the Pathfinder Part 2 and get flying, i.e. the fastest it can be done? What is the absolute fastest if I start playing immediately?
8.3.
8.3.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
That's what Ian says.
Okay. Cool.
So the reality, the fastest is always going to be faster than I could ever imagine it would be.
Sure.
But in reality, you're most likely not going to see anyone flying for a couple weeks. Really, the fastest you can do it is not until after assaults begin, which start in week 2.
Okay.
So it's not really much of a time to wait there.
But there's the reputation, though.
Yeah, the main other requirement is getting revered with the armies of Legion Fall, which you can work toward
immediately. Yeah.
Immediately, and then kind of the other stuff. We've obviously Pathfinder Part 1, exploring the Broken Shore. And, it's I expect to see a decent number of kind of the leading edge players getting it in a few weeks. It's one of those kind of have to wait and see because we put a lot of it in the hands of the players.
Yeah.
But,
Not long, basically. Not as long as it took to get flying in Warlords on Tanan Jungle a little bit.
Yeah.
There's less...
we kind of feel like at this point you've been, or a lot of people have been playing since launch, and you've developed your mastery over the outside world at this point, and really the only thing left to master is Broken Shore.
Yeah.
So once you've mastered Broken Shore, I think the time is right to let people start flying again.
Cool. Question from WoWPlayer2012 who asked... Exactly how difficult, I'm using air quotes as I say this, exactly how difficult will the solo instances for the unique skins be?
How quote difficult?
Exactly.
Well, I don't know if the difference between bunny ears difficult and real difficult is apparent here.
So difficult versus like difficult? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So how difficult? So we've tuned them to be challenging. I mean, that's why it's kind of called the challenge appearance.
Right.
We expect that if you are an absolute master of your class and you have incredible gear, and you've maxed everything out that you can, as at the point of 7.2 launch, maybe a few people will be able to get it immediately.
Okay.
Probably not. It's really intended to be a demonstration of your skill, your prowess, mastery of your specialization. So eventually, sure, it'll get easier as time goes on. We aren't going to retune them a bunch of times throughout 7.2.
Right.
Hopefully not famous last words. And right. So it will get a little easier over time just because you'll be getting all the new traits, you'll be getting new gear, eventually you won't trivialize it. That's never the intent, is to trivialize it within 7.2, but it'll get easier over time, very difficult to begin with.
Cool. Yeah, a lot of people I've heard internally have been sort of like drawing a comparison to the Warlock Green Fire quest chain.
Yeah, that's very accurate.
Yeah, so that was obviously there was a lot of like story and quest stuff that was leading up to that final encounter, but the final encounter with Canrathad was really tough when it really tough when it first came out. Like if you beat it when it first came, because I remember I was maining a warlock at the time, and I remember like getting that book immediately and going and fighting him and being like, okay, I guess I just have to hope I get lucky and I'll get through this. And eventually I did, and it was like felt amazing. But a little bit later on in the expansion, once you had better gear, you were able to go back, and it was a little bit easier, but still very like mechanically demanding. Like you have to do it right the whole way through.
Yeah, it's still, you're still only ever going to be the one person in there. You can never take your friends.
Yeah.
So you have to be good, even if you have high level.
Sweet. Question here, a related question from K Rule, who asked, are the new artifact skins in 7.2 unlocked per spec or for all your specs at once?
It's per spec. I mean, that's the short answer. There's actually, so we have 7 total lines that or 7 total challenges, I should say, and your spec is kind of assigned to one of them, or vice versa. So yeah, it's really, you've demonstrated mastery of that specialization in particular, which means you get that skin. If you want all 3, all 4, all 2, depending on your class, you have to defeat the challenge in every spec, or the different challenges too. So you can't just learn it with one and then do it with another.
Yeah, so it's like it's meant to be showing, we kind of said this already, but it's meant to be showing mastery of your particular spec.
Right.
So if you're a really good Windwalker, but you suck at Mistweaver, then you shouldn't be able to just, on a technicality, because you're a good Windwalker, also get the special Mistweaver.
Yeah, you're going to have to learn how to heal.
Yeah. One day I'll learn how to play Mistweaver. Question from Unariel. Who asked, I like the new challenge appearances, but why are some colors only unlocked via PvP or raiding? So we've kind of been talking a little bit already, like these are intended to show mastery of your spec and like be a really strong solo challenge, but once you've gotten that base, some of the other appearances come from things like, I think some of them come from raided battlegrounds, some of them come from raiding.
Right.
What was the philosophy there?
So the philosophy there is, once you have the new appearance, you've demonstrated mastery. So as far as soloing is concerned, so beyond that point, it's yes, you're incredible at your class. At this point, are you great in the context of team play? Are you great in the context of PvP? So it's really just being able to show off. One, as soon as you have that appearance, you're awesome. Like other people will see it, and they'll know that you're extremely good at your class. But then additional achievements at that point are, are you great at PvP or raiding or, so yeah, that's really the philosophy is you can kind of show off in multiple ways with one appearance and its color variants.
Yeah. So it's actually kind of similar in a way to the way the Balance of Power appearance works, because Balance of Power, obviously, we said this a few times, but it's kind of intended to almost in a way take the place of like the legendary ring questline from Warlords or the legendary cloak questline from Miss, and it's something that's like it's meant to reward someone who's really heavily participating in that organized content throughout the expansion. we just went in Legion. We went with a cosmetic reward instead of a power increasing reward, so that it didn't have impacts on like raid rosters and stuff like that.
Right.
But that's the base appearance to get that. There's others that unlock from different types of content afterwards, but the base appearance to even be able to equip the thing in the first place requires you to go through this very well organized raiding environment. And so then this one is kind of the solo version of that, where sure, you can get a color variant of it through PvP, you can get a color variant of it through raiding, but to be able to do anything with it at all, you need to have shown that mastery of your class.
Yeah, it's one of those cool things that we try to do every once in a while, being able to, it's easy to prove that you're great at doing dungeons if your Mythic Keystone is high.
Sure.
Being able to prove how good you are in a solo situation, it's a whole nother beast, right?
It's easy to prove that you were in a group that's good at dungeons.
Yes. You probably carried me if I managed to get through the Keystone, but it's on you to master your spec if you want to get that appearance.
Cool. Next question from Lestara, and I feel like we kind of hinted at this a little bit already, but it's probably worth answering directly, who asked, are the artifact challenges and the new skins something you expect all players to be able to complete eventually before the end of Legion? So is this something that right now they're difficult, and later on you'll kind of be able to just sort of walk through it, or is it sort of intended to be like, no, even at the end of Legion, even with the best gear from the last raid before the next expansion, is it still going to be difficult?
I mean, to some extent, it's kind of hard to answer because I can't say exactly where we'll end up as far as game balance goes at the end of Legion, but the intent is that, no, you're never going to get handed this, right? Like I said before, you're never going to be able to take a friend. You can't have your wife come in and heal you. It's good. It's just you.
Right.
Maybe she can play for you if you're really bad at the game.
Don't account share.
Don't account share.
Do not violate the terms of service.
Yeah.
Ryan Shwayder.
Sorry. Now I've lost my way here. I think they'll be challenging for quite a while. It's more than just a DPS check. It's mechanics that you have to respond to. It's skill that you have to have. And, simply the act of gaining an eye level, of gaining an artifact power, that's not going to be enough alone to get you through it. So I think, there's going to be people, maybe myself included, who are not necessarily going to earn the challenge appearance. Hopefully I get it. But
I hope so, too.
Yeah, I hope so, too. It'd be very embarrassing if I could never earn it.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of the answer to the question. Is probably some people won't be able to get it. It'll get easier as time progresses, as you gain in level and hopefully in skill. It's relatively inexpensive to retry while the mage tower is up.
Okay.
So we didn't want to put too heavy of a restriction on attempts, but I think you'll kind of get a sense after you do it. Once or twice, you can kind of think, okay, I'm just not good enough. Maybe I should come back in a few weeks.
Yeah. Because there's certainly elements of, as your gear improves, like parts of it'll, because you still have to kill something most of the time or heal something and so on. So as your gear improves, parts of it will become slightly easier. But there's still going to be mechanics and I don't actually know too much about these challenges myself. So correct me if I'm completely off base here. But like things like if you can't nail an interrupt, then there's no amount of gear that makes it easier for you to hit that button at the right time. If you can't chain together your stuns in the right way to keep someone from casting something, there's no amount of gear that's going to fix that problem either. So,
for sure.
Cool. Next question from Elgar, who asked, will there be any uses to Legion Fall war supplies besides contribution to the buildings, or do we just use up the 100 per day and then let the rest amass until we reach the cap? So we were talking about this question a little bit before, and it sounds like there might be a little bit of confusion here. Can you explain how this the war supplies and the building contribution actually works?
Yeah. So the Legion Fall war supplies, their only outlet is the buildings. We didn't want the choice to be between building buildings with everyone else or trying to get a new Pepe. So what the choice is which of the three buildings do I want to see up next? And there actually is not a limit to how frequently you can personally contribute.
So if you have an amount of Legion Fall war supplies, you can put those towards.
Right.
A
Yeah,
building.
it's not 100 per day. It's kind of, in some ways, there's no emissary for the armies of Legion Fall, and in some ways, this is kind of our answer to that.
Okay.
You get a cash each time that you contribute to building one of the buildings.
Okay.
So I think the thing a lot of people will do is, kind of get in their 100 per day or whatever number they feel most comfortable with. But there will be people who continue to earn more and more supplies through various means and contribute as much as they possibly can. So, yeah, I mean, really just the short answer is contribution to buildings is the only outlet for Legion Fall War supplies, and you can contribute as much as you earn.
Okay. Cool. And you continue to earn those caches as you contribute as well.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Yep.
Question from Wolfenstein.
Wolfenstein.
I'm positive I pronounced that incorrectly. It's been a long time since I took German. Question is, what happens to the Broken Shore buildings past 7.2 or even after Legion when a few players still want to complete their unfinished business?
Unfinished business. Yeah, so this is something we've actually talked about internally a lot. We have different approaches. We have kind of dials we can turn if necessary to make it easier to build them later on. Once, the bulk of the player base has moved on to bigger and arguably better things. It won't be better things. There's no better things. But the I know I'm going to put down our future patches.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Content lead for this one. Every other patch.
All I care about is this one.
Yeah.
The few players who want to keep going. So I think probably first we'll end up dialing the knobs a little bit to make it a little easier for fewer players. We absolutely have the option, though, look, we're deep into the expansion, deeper than 7.2 even, and we have, at this point, defeated the Legion enough, whatever that threshold is, that...
They're looking pretty defeated.
They're looking pretty defeated. They've given up. They're like, they rebuild these buildings every time we take them down, and they're no longer going to be able to counterattack. So we're kind of reserving that option, keeping it in the back pocket, that maybe at some point we say, we progress the story and say, this time's the last time you're going to build these buildings, and they're going to be up, and maybe they won't confer all of the same benefits. Part of the cool thing about them coming up and down over time is that each time you rebuild them, you get a different buff. So you get kind of some of the same benefits, like content benefits. To go into a couple of them, there's like the Nether Disruptor, gives you world bosses on Broken Shore, and unstable Nether portals that you can activate using an item to bring in an elite mob that others can help you defeat, which of course has rewards. So it's cool. There's content unlocked, but in addition to that, there can be buffs that sort of randomize over time. So we may adjust how that works. Maybe those buffs go away later on. Maybe they're permanent. We'll see. Whatever seems like the best choice at the time.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's I don't want to say this. That's kind of a core philosophy with a lot of what we've been doing in Legion is we're going to set this up, and we're not entirely sure what direction it's going to end up in later on, because we want to be able to respond to the way that players are interacting with it, the way that it's actually playing out on live. Maybe we decide later that, actually we don't like how this went, so we want to be able to change it differently. So we just put a lot of different ways into the game for us to be able to make those changes later on.
Yeah, it's one of the kind of most exciting and scariest things to do for us as developers is to kind of put things into players' hands, right? It's up to players how often these buildings get built. It's up to players if they enjoy it, if they want to keep going with it. If anything is horribly broken or horribly wrong, of course we'll adjust throughout the cycle. But it's kind of up to players. If people in 2 months decide that they're going to stop building buildings, maybe we make a different decision than we would otherwise.
Okay. Cool. Moving on. Next question here from Lunavale. Also asking about buildings here, asked, are there any concerns that the limited nature of the buildings we're constructing on the Broken Shore will make it hard for people to do the activities they're interested in at a time that is convenient for them? So obviously, when a building goes up, like we were saying earlier, it will be torn down at some point. Are you worried that the fact that it's only up for a short amount of time means that it's going to be difficult for someone who takes a week off or goes on vacation or something?
Yeah, and this is actually something we've considered for sure. They're up when they're built. They're up for 3 days before they get attacked and are destroyed by the Legion. After which there's, I think, a 24-hour cooldown period, for lack of a better term, before you can contribute to building it again. But we think
the Legion just sort of takes control of that area for 24 hours.
Well,
and then they get bored and wander
They fling
off.
their fell.
They fling their
stuff
fell
at them. Yeah, infernals and flying creatures, etc.
Fell stuff.
And destroy the buildings after a few days.
Okay.
So you do have, during that time period, you have 3 days to experience the content, and it won't be like 3 days up for one, and then immediately there's 3 days up for the next, and then immediately there's 3 days for the next. It's sometimes there's going to be overlap. I wouldn't be terribly surprised to see all 3 buildings up at the same time at some point. So I think there's enough time for most people, and that during that 3 day period to experience the content that's only available during that time. And it changes, both when it starts and ends is really up to player contributions. It's totally possible that at 4 a.m. the building comes up, and you happen to be on because you're playing too late, and you get to go, hit all the Nether disruptors yourself with a couple of buddies, all the Nether portals at once.
Right.
Hopefully that's enough time. We can adjust it if we absolutely have to, but I think, we're feeling it out and seeing how it plays out. So, yeah, I think you're going to have enough time, and that time will change as people familiarize themselves with the content, as, people figure out how to optimize the acquisition of Legion Fall supplies. You may start seeing those go up a little quicker. And so, yeah, I think people will have enough time. If you don't, maybe we can adjust.
Yeah, and it's not going to be. It shouldn't be horribly surprising that a building is going to be up soon either. It's not like,
for sure, yeah.
It randomly popped today, but I just decided I was going to be out tonight. I was going to go out and hang out with some friends rather than play. I guess now I have to play tonight. No, you'll be able to see that the bar is filling up. People are contributing resources towards it, so you'll have a good idea of when the thing is actually going to go up.
Yeah, I think you'll get an idea after the first building or two get built, and we'll have a good idea too of if it says 90%, does that mean that in about 20 hours it's going to be built? So okay, as long as in the next 4 days I'm going to be online, then I can do what I need to do.
Okay.
I'm going to keep going, sorry.
No,
but in addition to just those buildings, we are trying to keep content for every play style available at all times. It's not like a building is built and that's the only choice for people who want to do a solo challenging content or something along those lines. So you'll still have things to do. You'll still have progress that can be made, even if the building's not up.
Okay. Cool. Next question from Wired, asking about artifacts, who asked, there's announced plans to counteract the power loss from drop traits in 7.2. What are the plans to counteract the lost health pool generated from 35 to 54, which is approximately 700,000 health?
All right. This isn't exactly my area of expertise. There's better people like Matt Goss who can answer this. That said, when you unlock your final set of traits, your first trait is 10% damage and stamina.
Yeah.
So I think that's actually intended to counteract that loss. So the goal is that you don't get weaker when you unlock the new traits.
Yeah.
It's that if anything, you get stronger, not weaker, because you can now dedicate, if you've capped out 54 traits, if you've capped out your traits today, then you'll be refunded everything down to 35, and you can actually unlock 4 of the traits, or put 4 points into your traits after you unlock the new ones.
Yeah, and that'll include So basically, the plans that that Wired was referencing here, that'll include that first new trait, which is that big damage and stamina buff. So basically, the same thing that counteracts the power loss also counteracts the stamina loss.
Right.
Cool. Next question from Skull Kid. I love this question. Who asked, "What's Velen doing at the Tomb of Sargeras? I thought he was packing his bags and flying back to Argus."
Well, I don't think insert your favorite airline here flies to Argus yet. I mean, maybe it's in their future plans.
Jet Azeroth, not quite flying
Jet
to
Azeroth. So what is Velen doing? And that's a great question because he's one of the most interesting characters for a lot of people. And, I think I mentioned earlier he suffered just an absolute tragedy. One of the most unthinkable things that could happen to you as a parent happened to him. In the story earlier in this expansion. And, something that significant is going to affect you. We kind of think of these characters, especially these major characters, as kind of as people, and see how they would react. And his initial reaction was, just...
No, we're going
oh,
right
gosh,
now.
Yeah, I need
Get
vengeance right now. I need... And in addition to just, feeling such a horrible loss. And this is actually our opportunity in 7.2 to kind of progress that story, see what Velen is going to be up to. And I think, he's kind of come back. You see him for the first time again, kind of at the beginning of the scenario, to get a foothold on Broken Shore. And, he hasn't, a lot of people seem to think that he thinks the light has completely forsaken him and he's, I don't know, gotten some tattoos or something and doesn't like the light anymore. But he understands he's kind of back in it with the light to some extent.
Okay.
But he's going to take this opportunity to, take the fight to kill Jaden. He's been pursued for millennia, literal millennia, across the stars, across time and space, by this one primary antagonist in Kill Jaden. And this is going to be his opportunity finally, in the near future, for him to, at least in his mind, to get vengeance, to get some kind of closure to what happened to him.
Nice. Yeah, it's also possibly worth mentioning, I believe in the Defense of the Exodar, or whatever that scenario is called, I don't remember the exact name off the top of my head. I believe he said something like, "Prepare the Exodar, we're going home," or something like that. Yeah. The Exodar has been crashed for a while.
Yeah.
It's gonna take a little while for that actual preparations to take place. We've got to fix the thing first. Question here from Lady Ezra Bet. Similar question asking, will Jaina Proudmoore make a reappearance on the Broken Shore? So there's actually lots of Dreadlords on the Broken Shore. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh gosh. Oh gosh.
Sorry, I had to get after the hold back the Tyrians.
Yeah,
I had to get one in.
I can't resist all of my puns.
Yeah.
So Jaina Proudmoore, she's of course a fan favorite, someone that everyone wants to know what's next for her, right? Jaina left the council because she refuses to work with the Horde, which, retroactive spoiler alert, left the council. So,
by the way, if you weren't aware of that, you just got spoiled. Sorry. That was a while ago.
Hopefully you're aware of that. Yeah. It was the beginning of the expansion. But she still has the same ideals. She's not going to compromise her ideals and work with the Horde. And that's kind of what the armies of Legion Fall are all about, is there's no such thing as Alliance and Horde. To her, there still is. The Horde is still the bad guy.
Right.
And so she's not going to work with them. In addition, I think, we're working with Illidan, Khadgar, Velen, Maiev, and telling a lot of their story. Especially Illidan, we haven't really seen him modern day, what he's up to. And we kind of want to give room to Jaina's story, tell the story when the time is right, and kind of give it breathing room so she can shine somewhere. Okay. Not going to promise anything. I'm not going to say when she's coming, or even if she's coming. But it's a very interesting story. It's just not being told in 7.2.
Yeah. I want to make sure that we do it justice if and when we get around to Jaina again. Question from Heavy Hunter, who asked, will the final Order Hall advancement only affect world quests that award artifact power, or all world quests? So the new final Order Hall research that we put in that I believe the tooltip says something like doubles the amount of AP earned from world quests or something like that. Is that just artifact power, or does that apply to things like order resources, gold, so on?
Yeah, let me keep you on the edge of the seat a little bit and kind of explain what's going on. So when you unlock your final follower, one of the benefits at the same time is that you unlock the ability to do some more Order Hall advancements. I don't know if we call them spells, abilities.
Research, I think, is...
Researches.
Yeah. Researches.
So in the process, we're adding more of those, and we're kind of taking it so a lot of the earlier researches are going to be faster, a little easier to get. So instead of, taking this big chunk of time and then making it longer, it's more like we unstretch it. If that's the right... I don't know if that's the best way to explain it, but it's...
Order Hall squish.
Order Hall squish. Yes, we've condensed the Order Hall to a much smaller area, more convenient. So to answer this question very specifically, it's only for world quests that award artifact power.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not every world quest will give you AP.
Okay, cool. Next question from Ross De Neogaff, who asked, I really like the new pet battle dungeon in patch 7.2. Can we expect more such dungeons in the future? And I think, actually, we've mentioned pet battle dungeon a few times, but it's actually pretty cool. It takes place inside Wailing Caverns, and you go through with your team of pets, and you battle different pet, even little bosses and everything as you go. It's actually a really, really cool dungeon-ish experience for pet battling. Mm-hmm. So how do we feel about how that's going in 7.2, and is that the sort of thing that we can expect to see more of?
It's up to you, not you.
Oh.
But you, Rossi Neogaff.
Oh.
It's really up to the players. This is one of those features where it's pretty experimental. It's something new that we haven't done before. And kind of depending on how players feel about it, how everything ends up, I think maybe we'll do more. If everyone thinks it's the worst thing ever, then maybe we won't do it again, or maybe we'll take those lessons learned and try to do better next time. So yeah, that's really really up to players, and obviously we're waiting for feedback. We've gotten some feedback so far, but once this goes live, I think we're going to be watching to see what people think of it. Nice.
Yeah, there's a lot of sort of experimental content in patch 7.2 and in Legion in general, where it's kind of like, well, let's try this to see if it's something that players like. If they do like it, then cool, maybe we can do more of it. If we roll this out and literally no one does it, then we're okay, well that wasn't what we should have spent our time on. Let's put our time into something else instead.
Right.
Cool. Question here from Valrian. By the way, apologies if you're hearing, we appear to be inside a wind tunnel at this point, so yeah. I'm not sure if that's actually coming through the microphones or not. But question from Valrian, who asked, with everyone getting higher item level gear, will the followers cap be raised from 860 to, let's say, 900-ish? So obviously talking about the actual item level cap on followers.
That's one of the systems that we're trying to bring forward to remain modern and relevant to the current patch. And 900-ish is a very accurate-ish answer. I believe actually it is being raised to 900.
900 give or take 0.
Yeah, 900 give or take 0, exactly. So we are definitely raising the eye level so you can continue to progress your followers and go on harder missions with better rewards.
Nice. All right. Next question here comes from Leowin, who asked, are there any changes on the horizon to give us more options in leveling alts? So obviously we've been talking a lot over the last several weeks of things like once you're at max level, things like the artifact knowledge increases, things like the compendiums that allow you to immediately catch up on artifact knowledge and so on, things to catch up alts that are at max level. But what about options to actually get those characters from 100 to 110 or lower level to 110?
Yeah, I guess if we're just talking raw experience numbers, that's one of the things in assaults, in the Legion assaults of the 4 zones and Broken Isles. When those assaults are up, if you're below 110, I think I already mentioned this, but if you're below 110, then you can actually do those as bonus objectives.
And it gives a significant amount of XP.
For meaty chunks of experience.
Yeah.
You know, you're not gonna. It's not like Legion pre-launch where you're gonna, you know, be able to run it in AFK with every character you've ever made and get them to max level. But if you go and actively participate in the world quests, then you get a nice chunk of experience that you can kind of do alongside your level up.
Nice.
In addition to that, you kind of briefly touched on the knowledge. So that's going from 25 to the cap will be 50. It seemed like people really liked when they were able to take their mains and kind of give to catch up, to I guess 5 levels below where your main is. So we'll probably take that forward. It's going to be pretty quick and easy to get to 25 on any character that you have that at the start of 7.2 that isn't 25 yet.
Okay. There's like a quest pretty early on the Broken Shore that actually bumps you up there, isn't there?
The quest is once you're 25, but you can get there pretty easily.
Okay, cool.
With, I think, no time gate at all.
Okay, cool. I remember there being something, but I couldn't remember exactly what it was.
Yeah, the quest on Broken Shore is what kind of takes you from 25 to being able to go past 25.
Ah, okay.
So that is one of the things. So this Legion being such a big expansion, and having so much content for people to do, especially at max level and of course leveling up as well, we're kind of in this luxury problem of having so much for your mains to do that a lot of people are kind of, they feel some trepidation when they want to level an alt, but is that going to make it so my main isn't going to level up fast enough and get enough artifact power and everything? So that's something that we've been working on as we go, with legendary changes, with making it easier to get artifact knowledge, with making some of the things like Pathfinder Part 1 and 2, spoiler alert, account bound. With I think Suramar, when you unlock the dungeon there, you can play it on your alts as well.
Yep.
So we've been making efforts to do that, as well as I think we've gone back for all the campaigns. There's usually in every campaign there's some point at which you have like 10 missions you have to do or 5 missions you have to do in order, and they started off at 14 hours or something longer like that. We've taken that in to make it a little easier to do your class campaign a little faster. So yeah, we've been making efforts to make alt play much more desirable. Even going so far as in 7.2, once you get to the point of unlocking all the new traits for your main character, we want to make sure that you don't feel like you have to keep earning artifact power at the very top end.
Right, yeah.
That maybe it's better for you to go off and level an alt and get them up to roughly where your main is, rather than continue to push forward. It's not really a huge cap, but it's kind of a soft cap. It's sort of a rubber band that's like...
Yeah, there's a point where you'll just recognize, okay, getting another point in this trait just doesn't benefit me as much as... it's not as important to me as getting another character leveled up or checking out one of my secondary specs or something.
Exactly, and it's one of those things that, I'm not an itemization or systems guy, but it's one of the harder things to do is you kind of start dealing with diminishing returns in order to make sure that players don't do things that they consider unfun in the pursuit of what they feel is necessary.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you want people who really only play one character to continue getting some benefit from it.
Yeah. One other thing that I wanted to call out on leveling alts before we move on, just because a lot of people have been asking about heirlooms. I believe we talked about those last week with Matt Goss. They aren't in 7.2, but they are something that we are looking at for when is going to be the right time to bring those into Legion later on in the expansion. So... let's see. Question here. Keep in mind, we do have a special surprise coming at the end of this, so we only have time for a couple more questions. But question here from Decaden 1423, I think, who asked, "Will we be able to get Nightbane loot from the end of a Mythic Plus Kara dungeon, excluding the mount?"
To reiterate that this is not exactly my area of expertise, but my understanding is that Nightbane is not in Mythic Plus.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's as much of the answer as I know.
Yeah. From talking with I think I was talking with Russ Peterson about this, who is one of the main guys behind itemization and implementation there. The answer is no. You can't get Nightbane loot from the Mythic Plus Karazhan dungeons. So, I believe you are correct. And then let's make this the last question here from Putrohunt, not sure, who asked, will we be able to get some of the new traits from relics before Tomb opens? And will new relics continue to have some of the non-throughput traits for some classes?
Right. So I believe the answer is no, there won't be new relics before Tomb opens. That said, I think raids will no longer drop the non-throughput traits, or relics, but some people actually desire those, especially like tanks. So there will be alternate means for getting those relics, but they won't be dropping in raids.
In future raids.
Yeah,
right.
I think that's true.
Okay, cool. And again, that's a very itemization focused question, not quite so content focused, but yeah, basically TBD, I guess, on that one. All right, so that's about all the time we have for questions because, as I mentioned earlier, we have something pretty special for you guys that I'm really super excited about.
I'm pumped.
Yeah, I kind of want to just go into it. You guys, we have today to show you, we actually have the official patch trailer for patch 7.2 that the in-game cinematics team has been putting together. It looks phenomenal. I'm just gonna stop talking.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna.
They don't
want to
hear us anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Here we go, guys. Check this out.
Champions, your victory at the Nighthold has granted us the key to ending this war. With the pillars of creation assembled, we finally have the power to cut the demons off from our world. Gul'dan failed, and so shall the Legion.
Gul'dan was merely their pawn. Until victory is assured, we must remain vigilant. For the Legion's true masters have yet to reveal themselves. Among them, the monster who hunted my people across the stars. Kill Jaina. The day I took the fell fire into my veins, I saw my destiny. A grand crusade that would reach the ends of creation. That was the vision you showed me. Our crusade will prevail. Everything we have done has been by your design. And all we have to show for it is failure. Perhaps you lost sight of our destiny. Perhaps I overestimated your resolve. I paid for that destiny with my world. The time has come to see it done. Burn it to ash.
All right, so there you have it.
Whew.
Yeah.
Whew.
That is a sick trailer.
That's so good.
I love the moment. So I'm sorry, I'm gushing here a little bit, but I love
Tingly.
I love the moment so much where he's like, "I paid for that with my world," and just points at it. Got all sorts of little nerd chills on that one.
Yeah. Do we have
yeah.
anything else for him?
I don't know. Oh wait, there's one other thing I think that we wanted to let everybody know.
Okay.
Should we tell them?
We can tell them.
All right, fine.
We'll tell them.
Okay, go for it.
So 7.2 is not coming out soon, TM. It's coming out next week, March 28th.
Yeah, so there we go. Patch 7.2, the Tomb of Sargeras, will be releasing in North America March 28th, of course, following in Europe on the 29th and in other regions with their typical weekly maintenance. The patch is coming really, really soon, guys. It's coming out literally Tuesday in North America. I do want to clarify the patch, the Tomb of Sargeras, is coming out on Tuesday.
Yeah.
The raid Tomb of Sargeras, like we said in the Q&A last week with Matt Goss, is going to be coming at a later date. So you're still. I know a couple people have been worried about, but we haven't finished Nighthold yet. You still got time there. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, we want to make sure that the cadence of raids of all the different types of content comes out when it's best for it to come out, and people are still doing Nighthold.
Yeah, exactly. But all of the other content in patch 7.2 will be coming out starting on Tuesday, so you'll be able to go to Broken Shore. We'll be getting the Demon Invasions pretty soon as well. Things like
Assaults.
Demon Assaults, sorry. We'll be getting the Cathedral of Eternal Night dungeon.
Yep.
That opens immediately, right?
Immediately, yeah. All you have to do for that is do the scenario, and then the first couple of quests that you can do right then and there.
And I think we're getting the new PvP season as well, starting with the patch. So there we go. Patch 7.2, Tomb of Sargeras, like we said, releasing March 28th in North America, March 29th in Europe, and following with weekly maintenance in other regions as well. I'm super hyped for it. I'm super pumped. This is, seriously, I don't think we've actually mentioned it so far in this Q&A, but this is, I believe, the largest content patch that we've ever put out for World of Warcraft.
As far as I know, that is true.
There is a ton of stuff in this, and we've only touched on some of it here in this Q&A today. But alas, we are out of time. Thank you so much, Ryan, for coming on and answering some questions and talking with me here today.
Yeah, look forward to hearing everybody's feedback.
Yeah, definitely. Please do send us all of that feedback, because that is something that, I thrive on the feedback at the very least. And thanks again so much, everybody, for tuning in. That's gonna be it for us here today. Thanks again, guys. And we will see you. Oh, I should mention, we will have another Q&A at some point, but we don't know exactly when that's going to be just yet. So just keep your eyes peeled for that announcement. But yeah, thanks again, guys. We'll see you later.